MMA Boxing Talk here. I just wanted to put out a short video talking about the fight of the year. Um, Personally, it was the first main event of 2016, exactly a year ago today. It was Robbie Lawler versus Carlos Condit, January 2nd, UFC 195. Um, I was actually watching that at the bar that night. There was enough people at the bar. Um, I don't even think because it was, the best card or nothing. Um, I think there was, I don't know. It was people were out. I don't know if they were there to see Robbie Lawler because he had the fight of the year before against Roy McDonald. But regardless of that, it was an amazing fight. I think the punch stats was like 177 total strikes for Condit and only 92 for Lawler. Of course, Lawler landing the more heavier punches, but I mean, Carlos Condit was very active in that fight. He easily could have won that. Um, Personally, I thought he did enough to win, but it was a great fight, and that fifth round was legendary. Uh, One of the best rounds of all time in MMA history, no doubt. It was phenomenal. It honestly reminded me of the way they were just exhausted and throwing punches with no pop, no nothing left, but they kept swinging, they kept throwing. Nothing was going to stop them. They were so um, invested in that fight. They both had done good at certain points in that fight, but that fifth round was unbelievable, and it truly reminded me of the last round, the 15th round. And you're gonna laugh, but in Rocky one, when Rocky's fighting Apollo, and neither guy has anything left, and they just keep swinging. Um, that's what that round reminded me of. And when the fight was over, they both put their hands on the cage when they're stretching their arms out, trying to get oxygen in their lungs. Both of them do it right side by side. It was a great picture to see, and I mean, what a phenomenal fight. I mean, at the bar I was at, everyone stood up and started clapping. It was truly phenomenal to see. I've been to a lot of fights at bars, and normally you don't get a standing ovation when the fight's over. You know what I mean? You hardly ever see that even for a knockout. You know what I mean? So this was phenomenal. Blood, sweat, and tears. They left out there on the octagon. Definitely my fight of the year, and I remember thinking at that time, there's a good chance that a really good chance this would be fight of the year. Now there's been some close ones that have been um, you could argue make a good cases for, but this fight was very every round was really back and forth, and there wasn't as many momentum swings, but there was a couple, but not as crazy as other fights this year. But just the whole fight was great, and that fifth round was so legendary, so epic. Just you know had the fans leaving so satisfied to end that main event like the way it did. Um, other notables, other notable mentions, I would say, the one that pops out in my mind first after Lawler Condit, which is so crazy. It was literally today, a year ago today. But another honorable mention is Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz 2, the rematch. That was a tremendous fight. Crazy, crazy momentum swings in that fight. And McGregor definitely deserving the decision. The decision win, despite it was close. I mean, there's no doubt. You got to give McGregor the first and the second round. The third round went to Diaz, of course. The fourth really did go to Conor. I mean, Nate looked tired in that round. Um, Conor was tired too, but he rose to the occasion, and he ended up winning that round clear as day, despite being tired. His cardio definitely kicked in at that point. All the cardio he worked on, from March to August. Um, and I mean, what a fight that was. The fifth round, it was a close enough round. The way it ended, of course, it looked bad for McGregor, but regardless of that, McGregor wins 3 rounds to 2. Phenomenal fight. Of course, the Diaz fans will never accept that, but it's, all the experts, the way the rounds are scored, it's McGregor won 3 out of the 5, clear as day. So that was a great fight in August. It was a rematch. There was it was so tremendous because there was all this coverage and attention on this fight because everyone had seen the first fight, McGregor's first loss in the UFC. What was going to happen? Everyone was tuning in to see how McGregor will react. Phenomenal stuff. That's a really close second in my opinion. But Lawler Condit, definitely number 1 for me. And then 2 others I want to name quickly. In November 5th, the main event in Mexico City at high altitude, Tony Ferguson versus RDA. What a great fight that was. Tony Ferguson with his best performance by far, landing 199 total strikes at high altitude against RDA. What a performance! One of the best performances of the year. He took all of RDA's heaviest shots. He took them clean on the chin. What a tough motherfucker Tony Ferguson is. And hats off to RDA. I mean, he put up a great fight. He did the best he could. He hung in there. He didn't, wilt under Tony Ferguson's pressure. But what a performance by Tony Ferguson. I cannot wait to see Khabib and Tony Ferguson. It's got to happen. It's going to happen. I'm convinced it's going to happen despite what's going on. Someone's going to give. That fight has to be made. Khabib really wants this fight. I don't know. Tony signed on the dotted line twice for this fight before, so he's not afraid of of Khabib Nurmagomedov. For people that he just wants what's fair, and what's fair is getting the same amount of money Khabib gets. I think that's totally reasonable to say. It's not a ludicrous thing to ask. Khabib is not even a draw to begin with, so he can't be making that much money. Surely the UFC can match whatever Khabib's making and give that to Tony Ferguson. Ridiculous. I'm glad to see Khabib though, willing to take this fight to cement his number 1 status. Of course, if he wins. And then last but not least, in December 10th, UFC 206, we had Cub Swanson versus Doo Ho Choi. I mean, easily the best 3-round fight, non-title fight of the year. What a fight that was. I mean, Cub Swanson impressed me. I was picking Doo Ho Choi to win that. Doo Ho Choi definitely has to work on, slipping punches, being a little more evasive. But he showed a great chin. He showed, toughness. I mean, he did well. He landed some big shots, but Swanson, what a performance. Great fight. Hats off to Swanson, though. I cannot wait to see who he fights next. His next fight will be great. Just always an exciting fighter to watch. Great fight. And Doo Ho Choi, of course, I can't wait to see who he fights next. But those would be my 3 notable candidates for fight of the year. But Lawler Condit, like I said, that's number 1 for me. That's it for this one. If you liked the video, subscribe. Check me out on Twitter at MMABoxingTalk1. Peace.